Hello everyone, this is Phương. Today I will guide you step by step on how to set up a Kubernetes cluster on Ubuntu 24.0 for LTS and deploy a sample application. We will go through each step as follows. Okay, so to begin, first, we will update uh, the package list and upgrade the system using the following commands. Update apt upgrade. Enter. Next, we will install the necessary utilities, including tools that support integration via HTTPS and repository management. Copy, enter. Now we disable swap so that Kubernetes works stably. To disable swap permanently, we can use the command enter. Okay. Now we will load the necessary kernel modules and enable IP forwarding to allow networking in the cluster using the following commands. Okay. Kubernetes uses a container runtime to run containers. So to add the Docker repository and authentication key, use the following command. Next command. Okay. And now we can install container D. Then we will configure container D to use system D as the C group driver. After that, we need to start and enable container D to run with the system. Okay. Since could be ADM, could be LED, could be CTL are not available in Ubuntu by default. So we need to add the Kubernetes source to add the repository and install Kubernetes packages. We use the following command. Okay. And now we can install Kubi ADM, Kubi LED, and Kubi CTL. And check uh, the installed version. Version. Okay. Okay. As and now we have finished installing uh, the Kubernetes environment on both master and worker nodes. Great job. Now we are ready to initialize the Kubernetes cluster. Okay. In this step, we will use KuberADM to initialize Kubernetes cluster on the master machine. The master node, also called the control plane, is responsible for managing the entire cluster, including the API server, scheduler, controller, manager. So on the master machine, we will run the Kuber ADM init command to set up the control plane. Run the following command. Enter. We look for this line and copy it somewhere safe. This command contains important information for the worker node to join the cluster and to use kubectl on the master node for the current user. We run the following commands. Enter, enter, enter. Okay. Currently, if we check the cluster, you will see the master node in not ready state. Get nodes. Okay. Because there is no port network. Therefore, Kubernetes requires a CNI plugin so that pods can communicate with the network. Here we use Calico as an example. Okay, enter. Quickly check node status. A silence. The Kubernetes cluster has been successfully initialized on the master machine. The control plane is ready. Now we will connect the worker node to the cluster so we have a place to run applications. Okay. Currently, our cluster only has the master node. To deploy applications, we need to add the worker node. Kuber ADM already provides the Kuber ADM join command to join the worker node to the cluster. Copy, to add the worker node, we will run the join command provided by Kuber ADM init. Sudo, enter, enter. Okay, and we can see the message this node has joined the cluster, which means success. Okay, to verify the worker node has joined on the master machine, we go back to the master terminal to check the list of nodes. Now you will see two nodes, meaning the worker node has successfully joined the cluster and is ready to take workloads. Okay, we can also check uh, detailed information about the worker node. Enter. Okay, here you can see information about CPU, memory conditions, and the IP address of the worker node. For a well-organized cluster, we will assign a role label to the worker node and create a new namespace for the application. These operations help manage resources more easily, especially when the cluster scales. To do this on the matter, run the enable command to assign the worker role to the worker node. Enter. Okay, and check the labels of the nodes. Enter. Okay, namespace allows us to group Kubernetes resources together, avoid name conflicts, and easily manage permissions. Here, we will create a namespace named demo to contain the sample application. So we will create it through a YAML file. Use the following command. With the following content. Okay, and apply the file. Okay, then verify the new namespace. Okay, we can see demo is a list. Now comes the most exciting part, deploying an application to the Kubernetes cluster. For example, we will deploy a sample web application. So we will create the deployment configuration file as follows with content. Yes, enter and apply the deployment. Okay, then check the port created by the deployment. Okay, uh, we can see a port named like NGINS deployment in running state. Now to test whether uh, the NGINS container is working, let's use port forward with the following command to test. Okay, now open another edit H session to the master node and run this command to test. Okay, you can see welcome to NZINS. Here we will create a service of type cluster IP for internal cluster service because we will use ingress for external access later. So we will create a service for the NZINS deployment using kubectl expose. Okay. Now we can check the service that created. Okay. Uh, we can see NZINS service with port 80 and a cluster IP. At this point, any port in the cluster can access NZINS through this cluster IP. Okay. Suppose the application needs to handle more load. We will increase the number of ports from 1 to 2. So we will edit the YAML file as follows. Find the line replicas 1 and change it to replicas 2. Save the file. Yes, and reapply. Okay. Now we will check the post again. And we can see two running NZINS posts. Okay. Meaning Kubernetes quickly created another pod to reach a total of two at required. WhatsApp, the application has been scaled up, doubling its serving capacity. To manually delete an NGIS pod, we can get the name of one NGIS pod, then run the command. Enter, and then we can observe the auto healing. Okay, right after deletion, continually watch the post in the deployment to be able to access KSS applications from outside. We need to configure ingress to access the application via an internal domain with the following steps. First, deploy ingress NZINS using provided manifest with the following command. Enter. Okay. Then check. Okay. Now we can see ingress NZINS controller in running state. Next, we will create the file with content and apply. Okay. To determine the HTTP node port of the controller, use the following command. Enter. Okay. And on the Windows PC, add the following to Windows System 32 driver etc hot. Okay. Okay. Server IP and demo not local. Okay. And save. And finally, open the browser and enter. Copy, paste, enter. Okay. So this detailed guide, you have successfully set up a multi-node Kubernetes cluster on Ubuntu 24.04. Deploy a sample NGINX application, scaled application, and configure access via request with an internal domain name. Be proud of what you have achieved. Awesome. If you find this video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so more people can learn. See you in the next video where we will deploy more complex real-world applications on Kubernetes. Okay, thank you for watching.